Hi, I'm Caroline. I'm the Senior Writing Consultant in the Dallas Baptist University Writing Center, and I'm going to be showing y'all a little bit about college level research and the differences between researching for a high school paper and a college paper. So the first thing you want to do whenever you've been assigned a topic or given your syllabus for a class where there's going to be a lot of writing is schedule deadlines, especially for the longer research papers that you have in college. You're going to have multiple steps to the process, which we're going to go over those steps, but the easiest way to ensure that you get a good grade on a paper is to break it down into kind of bite-sized increments or into stages that are easily digestible to you. And when you are doing a research paper, oftentimes it's going to be over a particular text or over some articles that you're assigned to find. Whatever the case is, you need to actually read the primary text of whatever it is you're writing about. You can't get away with just using Spark Notes or looking at summaries or trying to figure out the blurb from a friend. Your professors read the same papers every year for the same classes, so they're going to be able to tell a difference between someone who actually read it themselves and drew a unique original conclusion versus if you merely obtain the information online. So that's the second step in addition to scheduling your deadlines. The third thing is you want to select your topic unless it's already been given to you. Oftentimes professors will either let you pick a topic based on the text you're researching, or they'll give you multiple things to choose from. So you'll want to pick the topic that you're going to write about. But before you get too deep into the game, it's always advisable to do a little bit of research first, because sometimes students will pick a topic that is too specific and there's not a lot of information out there about it. So for example, if you need to write a 10-page research paper and you have a very specific topic in mind, you'll want to figure that out before you get too deep into it, because you might not have enough information available to you to write a 10-page paper. So when you're doing your research and getting ready to actually write the paper itself, it's important that you analyze and understand what type of audience you are writing to. This is important because depending on the type of audience you have, or even the type of person your professor is, you'll need to construct your argument regarding your research in a certain way. You might have learned this in English class before, but there's 3 different types of audiences. There are neutral, hostile, and in favor. So a neutral audience could kind of go either way regarding your topic. They may or may not agree with you, and the way you will appeal to them is just by presenting a good logical argument and keeping fair to both sides. For a hostile audience, or in this case maybe a professor who you know is not going to be too keen on your topic, you want to use even more logic and statistics than you otherwise might, just to give as much concrete evidence as you can. That's really going to assist you in persuading your audience. If you know that your audience is already in favor of your subject, or that maybe your professor has very similar ideals to you, you'll want to appeal to him or her or your audience with a call to action at the end, kind of laying out all of your evidence and your research, and then explaining to them that because of these things that you know to be true, they should act upon it in this particular way. And another thing to keep in mind is, if you are aware of your professor's viewpoints at all, it's sometimes a good idea to not write something that you know is going to be extremely contradictory, unless you just want to be really daring. But if you don't write something that's extremely contradictory, it's going to be easier to appeal to them, because we all have biases, no matter how unbiased we try to be. So that's just something to keep in mind. And the way you can figure out what kind of audience you have is just by asking what you already know about them. So you might not know about how they feel about your particular topic, but if you know any of their political or religious affiliations, maybe their age or their backgrounds, whether they're male or female, all of these things can typically help you narrow down what kind of audience they are. And once you've done this, you can figure out then how to construct your argument and do the research that is necessary to complete your paper. So when you're writing a research paper, you obviously need to have some academic research sources. And I'm here to tell you what kind of sources you need. Sometimes your professor is going to specify an amount, like they might say a minimum of 5 to 7 resources. If your professor does not indicate how many you need, the general rule is that you need at least 3 credible sources. So the question of what are credible sources can be answered. Things like periodicals, journals from databases, reference books, dictionaries, newspapers, magazines. Sometimes websites ending in .gov or .edu are acceptable. Anything that is peer-reviewed is always acceptable, which most of those types of sources I just mentioned are. A lot of these can either be found through databases, which most school libraries offers. I know that DBU does. You want to stay away from sites ending in .com or .org or .net. Anything that is a public domain is typically not seen as credible because on a public domain, anyone can publish on it. It doesn't have to be an expert, but if something is peer-reviewed, especially in something in a journal or an article, you know that it was either written by an expert or reviewed by experts. If you find a source that you really think could be credible and it is a .com or .org website, you can always run it by your professor to see if it's acceptable, but just know that searching on Google is often not the easiest way. You want to go through either the database or your school's research system, which most schools do offer. When you are going through the research process and you have found some sources that you like and you think you want to incorporate, you should compile more quotes than you need. I say this because some professors do ask for a specific amount of quotes, and you obviously want to meet those, and either way you do want to have some integrated quotes. But as you are writing, you either might change the direction of your paper or simply decide that you don't like some of those quotes or that they no longer apply, or you might find better ones. So it's always good to compile more quotes than you think you need from your sources, just in case you end up using or not using all of them. When it comes to research, especially for longer research papers, students are often either tempted to plagiarize or they plagiarize without realizing it. So it's important to know how to avoid those, because if you do plagiarize, whether or not you meant to intentionally, it can even result from dismissal from a university, which sounds scary because it is, but there are easy ways to avoid plagiarizing. All you have to do is correctly cite your source, both in in-text citations within your text and on your reference or bibliography page. You also need to include a citation even if you're simply paraphrasing information in your own words. It's not just for direct quotes. So the question you need to ask yourself when you're wondering if you need to give a citation is, A, are these my own original thoughts I gathered all by myself? Or B, is it common information that everyone is aware of? So for example, I don't need to cite that George Washington was the first president of the United States, because this is very general information that pretty much everybody is aware of. But if it was some more specific information about George Washington, such as how long he went to school or what he studied or at what age he died, I would need to demonstrate to my professor that I got this information from elsewhere, and I show that through an in-text citation and by putting it at the end of my paper. The other thing to be aware of is that it is possible and frowned upon to plagiarize yourself. And this simply means that you cannot duplicate old work that you have done before. So you cannot resubmit an old paper or even take portions out of an old paper or something current for a different class, because there is technology these days to catch that kind of plagiarizing, and it's seen just as seriously as plagiarizing someone else's words besides your own. And the reason for this is because you're supposed to be learning something new and researching something new for every work, and if you plagiarize yourself, you're kind of cheating against yourself and the assignment, and that's why it's taken so seriously. So be certain that you aren't plagiarizing, and if you are wondering if you are plagiarizing or frightened about it, you can always go watch one of our MLA, APA, or Turabian videos for whatever formatting you're using, and that tells you how to cite your sources so that you don't forget or just don't do it because you're not sure how. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the rest of our channel and like and subscribe if you liked this video. Woohoo!